Hi everyone, this is Jennifer Stay from Coloring Pages Bliss. In this video I will be reviewing and demonstrating the Color Escapes Premium Colored Pencils by Crayola. The first half of this video we will take a close look at these pencils and put them through a series of tests to help answer our questions. The second half of this video I will demonstrate how they perform by coloring this charming little bird that I recently drew. You can download and print this and many more coloring pages from my website. As always, there are links to this coloring page, links to all the products that you will see in this video, and links to my Facebook page, website, and other social media outlets in the description below. Now before I get started, let me state that I always give my honest opinion in reviews. I make every effort to be accurate about all the details, but remember, please do your own research before making any purchases. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are with the premium colored pencils by Crayola called the Color Escapes. Now these are recently being produced by Crayola, and so I haven't seen them everywhere yet. So far I've seen them on Amazon and I've seen them on Crayola's website. And I contacted Crayola and they sent me this package here, and I'm really excited to spend some time with them and do some testing to see how they perform. Now, so far all I've seen is them available in the 72 set, but you can get them packaged two ways. This way in their cardboard packaging, but they also have them in a deluxe packaging, which is a really beautiful wood box. And I've only seen that on their website, Crayola's website. The easel packaging, like you see right here in the cardboard, is about $23, and the wood packaging in the big beautiful wood box is about $50. Now this packaging here on the back has a little swatch of all the colors, and yes, it's 72 different colors, so there are no repeats, and then it has instructions on how to open the packaging. So let's look at the packaging really quick. The way you do it is you open the bottom, and then when you first get it, this perforation is sealed and you have to break it open. Now, opening this up reminds me a little bit of, you know, when you open up the macaroni and cheese packages, and it should be really easy, and you're trying to get into it and be careful, and it has that easy open tab, and you think, wow, this is going to be easy, and you're working on it and it's just really frustrating and stubborn. That's the way this packaging was for me, and it was quite a chore to get this broken open. But once you get it open, it has these three inserts inside, and you slide it very carefully open like this. See, 1, 2, 3 sleeves, and then you break this back open. That was the part that was really tricky because I didn't want to tear this wrong. And then you slide it back again with this part folded back, and then you can close this shut and it becomes a stand like this, which is very clever, I thought. And you can kind of shift them if you get the flap just right underneath. Like I said, it seems a little Mickey Mousey, but once you get it in there just right, you can kind of pull this back one up a bit like that and push this front one forward a little bit, and then you can kind of see them all in a row like that, so it's easy to color with. So that's, I think, quite clever to have your packaging all in one with your easel. So that's nice and easy to use. The sleeves themselves, though, once you do pull a whole row out, the sleeve is very floppy and easy to spill the pencils out. So once I went through and organized the colors the way I wanted them for my color swatches, I was pretty nervous that I would spill them and lose the order. So just be aware of that. Let's go ahead and talk about the pencils themselves now. The pencils themselves are hexagon shaped, and they're covered in a really nice matte black finish, and the ends are closed off and then dipped in a color to match the color of the core. And the core is a 3.8 millimeter core, so it's a good size core. And each pencil then says Color Escapes and its name, and it's done in a really pretty silver color. So that's nice. Let me bring it up a little bit closer so you can see. Now on the website, Crayola doesn't give any information on what the content of the core is, so I can't pass that along to you. There's also no information on its light fastness, so we can't pass that on as well. Now let's check and see how well they have done on matching the core color to its swatch on the end here. I've gone ahead and created my color chart with all the colors. So if we look at the violet, we should match pretty good. Overall, what I found is the colors are a little bit off. As you can see here, the violet looks just a little lighter than what the swatch here is. Let's look at another one. I'll just randomly grab a couple and we'll look. This is light ochre. We come to light ochre here. It's pretty close, but again, I would say it's just a little bit off, but it's not too bad. I've seen worse. Here's another random one. Let's check hot pink. This one's more off, I would say. The color is definitely a lot brighter than the swatch on the end. Let's check another one. Here's orange. That one's pretty good. How about one in the blue family? Here's sky blue, right here. That one's way off. This one's a lot darker than what the swatch came out. So pretty inconsistent as far as the ends of the pencils matching the actual color swatches. But there's a really pretty variety of colors, and that's really fun. We get some grays down here, and there is a silver and a gold. We're going to go ahead and do some testing now. I've gone through and picked out some colors for us to do for the testing, so let's set up for that. Okay, so I've picked our pencils that we're going to use for our testing, and now I'm going to just put our box back together here so that we can move on to the testing. And like I've said, the packaging where it's really clever is also really stubborn, and you think this should be easier than what it is. So I don't know, I think if I were to purchase this and use this as my main set, I would probably take them out and put them into some other kind of case, because this is just a little too fiddly and not trustworthy to me if I was to use this full time. Even once you get it all in there, it just, I don't know, it feels like I can't get it shut quite right. There. Whew. All right. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, the color samples I picked were selected and matched up according to the color swatches. So I went and I picked the closest yellow to this yellow. And that's how I matched up all the colors. That way, all of the color worksheets will be consistent from brand to brand. So where it says I need a violet, in actuality, I picked the color purple because its color swatch was the closest to this violet. And that's how all the colors for all my color pencil reviews will be chosen. And so if you're wondering why I picked these specific colors, that's why. Same with orange. I didn't actually pick what they called orange. I ended up picking what they call light orange because it matches up with this orange better. So the first thing that we're going to do is color out all these colors into this sample wheel, and then I can show you how the metallics look. Also, if you'd like information on the paper I'm using, there's a link to that in the description on this video. First thing that I noticed right off was that the gold was a lot more rigid. It wasn't as creamy as the silver. I had to work a lot harder to fill in that circle. Now what I did was I tried to really burnish in the color in the center of both of these so that we can see if it is a true metallic. When the light catches it, is it going to look shiny, or is it just going to look like a gray and a gold color? When they call these metallics, I really want it to look metallic. So let's move it in the light and see if we get metallic. And it is catching a bit of a shine, so that's good. That makes me happy. But like I said, I had to work really hard to get that burnished in layer there on the gold. Okay, so now that we have all of our colors, we can move down and begin into our tests. The first test we're going to do is the color usage and sharpening test. We're going to use our burnt sienna brown for this test. And the way this test is conducted is basically what we want to find out is how quickly the core is used up. And this is also kind of a test to see how nice the pencil lays down onto this paper, and does it have a nice creamy feel. All of those kinds of things we're going to learn from this test. So this is a 2" by 2" square, and we're going to start out by sharpening up the pencil, and then we'll know that we're starting with a good sharp point, and by the end we'll know how much we used up to really burnish in the color into this 2" by 2" square. So we're actually going to go over the square 3 times. The first time we're going to go over it, it will be really light pressure. There we go. So we sharpened it up. Let me show you here. We've got a nice sharp tip to start with. So layer 1 is going to be light pressure in just one direction, and we're going to cover the whole square. Well, this will give you an idea with just light pressure how much coverage you can expect to get when using these pencils. So with very light pressure, it just barely takes down the tip of that pencil. Okay, now the second layer we're going to go on this, and we're going to use medium pressure. Okay, there you can see how much of the core we've used so far. And then the third layer we're going to use hard pressure, and I'm going to attempt to burnish it in and remove any of the white speckles that are left. So we'll see how much of the core it takes to get that done. Okay, there, I think we've got it burnished in. That was the third layer, and we've pretty much used up the whole tip there. If we had to go any farther, we'd definitely have to sharpen it up. And that was a lot of work to get that third layer in. My hand is very tired. I had to push pretty hard. So let's sharpen it up here. It sharpens really nice and easy. We're using the Comb sharpener. It's a very sharp steel blade on it. Magnesium steel blade, so this is a very good sharpener. And we can bring it right back to a nice sharp point. So overall, I would say the feel of it is really difficult when it came to the end part where you want to burnish it in and get rid of all the white. And as the layers start to go on, it starts to feel almost slippery. The pencil doesn't like to layer on top of each other. As we do more of the layering tests, we'll see if that holds true as we go along. But I was surprised how slippery it felt and how difficult it was to get that burnishing going. So that's surprising to me. We are going to do the black value test now. What we're testing here is to see how deep of a black we can get when we burnish this black pencil in. I've noticed with some lines the black pencil is not a true black. It tends to be more of a gray. So let's see how black we can get with this black color pencil. Okay, let's see how black that looks. I have on my color wheel, there's a black value scale, so we're going to hold that up to it and see which one we think it matches closest to. Well, I would say it's not getting to the true black, the 100% black. It's more like in the value 2 range, I would say. So it's not as deep of a black as I would like to see when, you know, if I reach for a black color pencil, I expect black to come out. So that's a little disappointing to me on their black. Okay, now we're going to test and see how erasable their pencils are. Yes, this is their Scarlet pencil. I'm going to color out a gradient and then we'll test to see how erasable it is. Okay, right now this is my favorite color pencil eraser. It's the Factus Black 18. So what we're going to do is just erase a streak through it and see how well it lifts off. So we got decent lift off from there. Of course, this pencil isn't designed for being erased, but sometimes we need to erase things, so it's good to know how much of it we can remove. Sometimes artists like to color on different colored paper, and so it's good to know if the pencils you're purchasing will be seen on black. So we're going to use blue, yellow, and the red, which is Scarlet, to see if we can see it once it's colored out onto this little swatch of black. Okay, let me move this in the light a little bit so you can see. If your project is coloring on a colored paper or a dark paper, I would recommend not using this line. They don't show up very well. The next test we get to do is the layering test, which is one of my favorites because color pencil really shines when you use it in layers. So let's see how well the Color Escapes line will layer up. So we start with blue as our first layer. We're going to color in the entire box here with the blue. And just a light to medium pressure here. Okay. And then 2/3 of this square we're going to color in with the yellow. And what we should see is a green come through. That's decent. I've seen a better mix before. And then we'll do a brown for the last third. Sometimes when you color things, you'll layer on like a brown on top, and it will give it a really pretty depth to it, like if you're doing a tree or something. So that's why I picked this 3-color combination here. But what we're hoping to see is with the brown on top, be able to still peek and see the yellow and the blue come through. Okay. So I felt that same problem again. It seemed on the 3rd layer to feel like it just gets slippery, like it won't take as much pencil as what I would like it to take anymore. Eventually I had to go over it more times than what I wanted to, and eventually I forced it to take that 3rd layer, but I don't think we could go on and do more layering past that. I think that's it. So these pencils don't seem to really lend themselves to layering very well. Okay, so we're going to now test out some blending. We have 4 different ways of blending here to test to see how they perform. The first blending test we're going to do is called Jennifer's Rule of Blending Thirds. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can check it out with a link in the description of the video. For this, we're going to use yellow, orange, and red. And it's a good way of testing to see if you don't use any blending aids like solvents or a blender pencil or anything, how much of a blend can you get with your pencils. So let's go ahead and test that out. I'm just going to move the paper a little bit so it's at a better angle for my arm. And we're going to start by doing a full square of yellow. And this is, again, just light to medium pressure here. Then we move to orange for the 2/3. and then red for the final third, or the deepest part of the blending. So if this was your flower petal, this would be the deepest part of the petal, or the shadow of the petal. Then back to the medium tone, and you go over the whole thing again, the 2/3. And finally, again with the yellow, you go over the entire square. It kind of blends it all together, smooths it all out. Again, it just feels so slippery, like you're barely accomplishing anything as the layers start to build up. Okay, so there we got the Jennifer's rule of blending thirds done. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the odorless mineral spirits blend. We're going to use blue and yellow, and we should get a green, a really pretty green in the middle. We'll see if these perform well with odorless mineral spirits. So we're going to color out with light to medium pressure, about 2/3, and then light to medium pressure again, light about 2/3. And then this is just some odorless mineral spirits that I've poured off into a small container. This is no special brand. Some people know it by Gamsol. And then this is just a blending stub, and I soak it in there and pick some up. And what this does is it breaks down the wax or the oils that is the carrier and leaves behind the pigments of the pencil. I'm just going to blend the center and leave the edges. And so this is a good way to see how strong the pigments are, and basically to see how well they are going to blend. And it looks to me like, well, first of all, it's nice that we got a really pretty green, so that's good, but it is quite blotchy. What I'd want to do if this was my actual coloring page is I would go back and I would then layer some more blues and yellows in here, and then break it down again with the solvent until I get a nicer, smoother green here in the middle. Okay. Now over here we're going to test out how well you can use their white that they've provided as a blender. Some of the whites work better than others, and you can use it to go over it like an overlay and use it kind of like we've done here and blend the two colors together. So we're going to use red and blue and see if we can't create a violet in the middle. So here's our red and our blue again, and we're going to kind of lay it out the same way we did here with red going across 2/3 with a medium to light pressure, and lay it down as evenly as possible again. And the blue again, light to medium pressure. And we're hoping to get a pretty kind of creamy violet in the middle by using their white. So this will be a good test to see, first of all, will the violet appear? And secondly, will their white pencil work as a blending tool for you? So we'll just go over it, and it's sort of a medium to heavy pressure we're going to use, and burnish in the layers and see what we can accomplish here. And I'm getting that slippery feeling again, like I'm not accomplishing anything. Out here where there's only one layer, I can feel it working better. But here in the middle where I've got, this is the third layer, this pencil's the third layer, it really feels slippery. And I am working on a paper that has some tooth on it, and there is a link in the description about this paper. So I'm not extremely satisfied with that blend. And I think again it comes down to the problem with the layering with these pencils. More of a muddy color we got. I wouldn't call that violet. You know, this is more of a violet here, and I wouldn't say that's what we got there. Nothing, maybe a blue violet, I don't know. That's being generous, maybe a blue violet. Okay, so now we're going to test a colorless blender, which I've got the Prismacolor brand colorless blender here, which is just a colorless pencil with some wax-based media here. We're going to do similar process right here and see what happens. We're going to use yellow and yellow and red, and hopefully get an orange in the middle. So we'll see how that works. So again, we'll go yellow 2/3. And red 2/3. Trying to lay it down as evenly as possible with a medium to light pressure. Alright, let's see if we can blend that together using the Prismacolor Colorless blender here in the center. We should get an orange. Okay, so that's definitely working better for blending. So if this was my main set for coloring, this would be the tool of choice for blending. As far as out of these four, we got a good blend here, but it was that slippery feeling. So if it were me and this was my set of choice, then I would invest in a colorless blender and use that to help me with the blending, because that looks really pretty, and we did get a nice orange in the middle there. Okay, so after performing the tests, my final thoughts and notes on all this was that the core usage is fine. Of course, when you go into the burnishing tests, used more than I thought I would, because I had to push so hard and work so hard because of the slippery feeling of the pencil. The core is a very smooth core when you're doing the light to medium pressure, but as soon as you have to move into layering, you have to work pretty hard and push pretty hard to make the pencil do what you want it to do. The pencils sharpen beautifully, especially with a good sharpener. And like I said, the layering and blending is quite difficult. Average erasing, but in all, if I were you, if you purchase this set, I would also purchase a colorless blender, because that will help you get some beautiful blending. This completed worksheet and all my product review worksheets are posted on my website for you to compare. So if you found this video helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you won't miss future videos. Now we can move on to the demonstration portion of this video, where I will use these pencils to color this very cute little bird that I recently drew. Now I'm also going to give you some coloring tips along the way. This should be a lot of fun. And remember that this coloring page is available on my website. Okay, so I'm being inspired by blues and greens from this set, so I'm going to color my bird in blues and greens. I was going to use the easel the way that the back of the box suggests you use it, but as I was setting it up and trying to pull pencils in and out, I was getting more and more frustrated, and you can't see the ends, the paint dipped ends, this way, the way the package is set up. So I decided to just forego with the box altogether and just pulled the pencils out. I'm going to kind of try to keep them in their trays, but we'll see how long that lasts. And I have my Prismacolor colorless blender handy, because as we discovered during the tests, that was the best way to do the blending and layering, was by using this really awesome tool. So we're going to use what we learned and apply it to this fun coloring. So I'm just going to sort of go for it and see what happens here. We'll start with a really pretty, this really neat blue here. This is the turquoise, and we'll just kind of build and see what happens. So I'm going to make the base of him this blue. Okay, now we want to deepen up that color. So let's see, maybe, let's see, this is a cerulean, and that seems like a darker version of this turquoise. So in the shadows, we're going to lay in the cerulean here. Give it some depth. Give him some shape to his belly as well, so we'll kind of give a dark line along the belly and then lighter pressure out into the main part of the bird. And again, dark here at the shadow of the wing. And some shape to his back as well. And around his eye. And back to our turquoise, and we're sort of help them to come together and blend that cerulean in a little bit. There, I'm liking how that looks, so I'm going to keep these two pencils sort of to the side so I don't get them mixed in with the other blues and greens that I've pulled out here. Okay, now for the dots, I thought I would kind of use an array of colors to give some interest and excitement here. So we'll just go in and fill these in, burnish them in. Maybe we'll add a violet. This is lilac, actually. And how about cobalt blue? I ended up really liking the purples I was adding, so I grabbed a few more purples from the trays and added a bunch more purple dots in there. So that was really fun to discover that that looked pretty there. We're getting quite a really diverse but pretty palette. So we're working in purples, blues, and greens here. Okay, so now we're going to kind of decide what we want to do with the feathers on the wing and the tail, and I think we'll keep going with the purples and see how that takes us because it's so pretty. So let's go ahead and pick a couple purples and do some blending here with our colorless blender. Maybe we'll do this violet and go into a lavender and then end up with this lilac. Light, medium, and dark. Now it looks to me like where I thought this lilac was going to be the light, the lavender is actually the lighter. So we're going to have to change things up here. Maybe we'll drop the lavender and just do violet to the lilac, and then I wonder if we could use this as our dark, the purple. Is this darker? Yeah. Okay, and this has some red on it that we don't want, so I've got a index card here we can kind of push that off onto. You can also use a piece of sandpaper. You can sharpen that off if you want, but you'll lose a lot of the product and we don't want to do that. We definitely don't want that orange mixed in with our purple. Start back here and push the color forward, and that'll just deepen up that color. Okay, so I think I'll do like every other feather. Purple, violet, lilac, purple, violet, lilac, and then the colorless blender. Purple, and violet, and then we'll finish off with lilac on the tips. And hit it with the colorless blender and bring it all together. And these are the two that we used for the base of the bird, the cerulean and turquoise. And I think we'll do those two colors for the wings here. Starting with the cerulean and then into the turquoise. So pretty. Okay, and then we need to pick some colors right up here for at the edge of the beak, and I think we'll maybe pull from the greens that we used on the dots. And help that blend in just a little bit more. Come back with the turquoise color and just help it blend. Same with the purple. I'm coming back with the lightest color, the lilac, and just helping the color come together just a little bit better here. Okay, now around the eyes and for the feet and the beak, we need to make some decisions, and I think I want them to sort of be neutral, not stand out a whole lot. So I'm going to pick, we've got a sand color and maybe this cream color. We'll use these two colors here. And the sand is really light, and then the cream we'll just do kind of following the speckles and do it a little darker in the speckles. And then the foot will be darker up here right under the belly of the bird, lighter on the top of the foot, and then darker on the bottom of the foot again for the shadow. And then the beak, maybe we'll do sort of a lightish, I don't know what color to do the beak. We could keep it in the same sort of sand color and maybe add a little turquoise to it. I don't know. I like that. Need a shadow on the bottom of the beak, and to make it feel curved, I'm going to do a bit of a shadow here. And if we grabbed our lightest color, which is maybe this light blue, and I don't even know, it's too slippery, I can't even feel it going in. So I don't think we'll bother. There's just a tiny bit there now, and so it looks like a mistake. It's not going to lift out. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. Okay. Now we get to move to the background and the leaves, and I'm not quite sure on the background, but we can move to the tree and the leaves. Let's see. Let's pick sort of a pretty happy brown. maybe this brown. This is our brown ochre. And we're going to pull from these colors that we've already been using to build up the leaves. Maybe more of a greeny leaf type color instead of the turquoise. So we'll grab this mint and the grass green. And the mint might not be light enough. There, that's better. Jade and grass green will be our two greens for a light and a dark. And then the brown, we'll use the brown ochre. And I think what we'll do actually is I'm going to do a really light, and I hope this won't be a mistake where we're having trouble with layering here. This is usually my method, would be to add a little bit of green into my trunks and my twigs first to give it more of a natural look. So hopefully this won't be a mistake here. Okay. We're going to go really light first over everything, and then we'll come back and add the darker shadows. And I'm going to go over all the branches with the Colorless blender, and hopefully that will help us be able to deepen up the shadows here. Okay, now we're going to come back with our brown ochre and try to build in a shadow at the bottom edge of the branch to give that branch some dimension. Typically the Colorless blender is the last step, but because of our layering problems, I decided to try the Colorless blender sort of in the middle to see if that would help us with the layering. Okay, I think using the Colorless blender in the middle helped a little bit. Do a little shadow here beside the feathers. And I've brought in the wax paper so that I have a place to rest my hand and not smudge the color of the pencils below my hand. And now we're going to just kind of play around with the leaves, and then we'll need to think about the background. Okay, so we've got all of it done now except for the background, which we just need to pick a color. And I think we'll probably just go into something like a yellow, make it sort of feel sunsetty. So we've got a couple different yellows here, and move into the oranges. This is a light ochre, and this is a golden yellow. I think I'll drop the lemon yellow and stay mostly in the warmer yellows. And I think the way we'll do it is we'll make it darker sort of behind the bird and then go out to a lighter place on the outside and see how that looks. So it looks like my lightest yellow is yellow. So I'm just going to do really light pressure here. If I tried to burnish this in, I would be here for a long time and be in a lot of pain at the end. So we're just going to kind of kiss it with this yellow. Now the light ochre. And finally, the golden yellow. And then I'm going to go back and grab our lightest yellow, which is yellow, and go over everything to bring it all together. In fact, I might grab this even lighter yellow, the lemon yellow, and do the blending with that. Give it all a once over. Now looking at it, the only thing that I'm unhappy with now is that I feel like we've kind of lost the eye and the beak and the foot to the background. The background is so vibrant and pretty that these have lost something. And so I want to kind of pick some color here that we can help that with. Maybe this ochre. That might be our best, or maybe even the gold. But this is where the problem with the layering really shows itself, where we needed to add extra. We're having to work really hard to get this pencil to lay down. Yeah, now it's just sort of looking dirty. Let's see, maybe I can try to blend it out now using the cream color that we originally used on the beak. Okay, I think that's the best I'm going to be able to get that to go. Because I can't layer anymore. If I'd had thinner weight paper, I think I would have had holes in the paper by now, the amount I've had to sort of dig to get that to do what I've got it to do there. So, but I'm really happy with the pretty blues and greens and purples that I got that to do. And the background I'm quite happy with. I think it's really cheerful and happy, so I'm really happy about that. So remember that this coloring page that I just colored is available as a downloadable PDF on my website. All the links you need are in the description below. Thanks so much for watching this color pencil review. Please take a moment to like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I have many more reviews and tutorials here on my channel with live weekly events on my Facebook page. I would love to have you join our fun community. If there is a product you would like me to review, please comment below and I will see what I can do. Thanks again for watching and have a blissful and colorful day. Bye-bye.